Well, a moment or two before the new year, I read the dread news that Tony Blair, the war criminal, the man responsible for 1 million dead people in Iraq, the man who sent extremism pulsing across the whole world, including here in our own country, including in this postal district SW1. The man who, with his friend Bill Clinton, paved the way for the economic crash by their grotesque light touch deregulation of the banks and the finance houses here in London, the abolition of the Glass-Steagall Act in the US, and the light touch of Gordon Brown and Tony Blair brought us all crashing down, and we have not recovered fully from it even now. All these years of austerity are because of the peculiar love affair between Tony Blair and Bill Clinton and the finance industry in the city of London. But of course it was his even more peculiar relationship with the next US president, the simian George W. Bush, whose brain he tried to be, but who brought the world almost to destruction, a destruction which continues to pulse around the world and will do as long as the lifespan of the youngest person watching or listening to this show tonight. The entire world has been deformed, defaced, self-harmed by Tony Blair and George W. Bush's invasion and occupation of Iraq, which killed 1 million people in Iraq. But the dead, you can't stop counting yet. Now, I don't want to say too much more about Tony Blair because time is my enemy, and everybody out there knows how I feel about him and how dedicated I am to holding him to account. The only place I want to hear him speak is in the dock at The Hague, at the International Criminal Court, facing trial for war crimes and for crimes against humanity. I will never give that up. My film, The Killings of Tony Blair, and even my latest film, Killing Kelly, are about him. So I've said almost as much about him as I have time to say this evening. Most of my remarks will have to be aimed, and I'm genuinely sorry to say, because if you're a regular viewer and listener, you'll already know that I long ago have forsworn the expression of my actual views about monarchy, about the system of honours under the unelected, unaccountable monarchy that we have here in Britain. I forswore it on the basis of my knowledge of the deep respect that the British people have towards the current monarch, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. It was always my plan to wait until the demise of Her Majesty the Queen to launch my campaign for a referendum in Britain on our transformation into a democratic republic of a kind suited to a grown-up country many hundreds of years old in the 21st century. I wish her long life, but she's already had a long life, and that question will have to be posed upon her demise. But tonight I find myself in the unusual position of beseeching Her Majesty the Queen to turn back from a disastrous error of judgment which she has made. Now, I normally absolve Buckingham Palace for other decisions, because I know that they are made for the Queen by the Prime Minister, but not this one. The decision to not only elevate the mass murderer, the war criminal, Tony Blair, to a knighthood, but to elevate him to the highest possible rank of knighthood, to make him one of but 24 people wearing garters, sitting around her table, as the most eminent 24 people in the land, was a decision made only by Her Majesty the Queen. And in the sea of troubles being faced by the royal family, Prince William's affairs, Prince Harry's conduct in realms overseas, the alleged crimes of Prince Andrew, the general weirdness of the heir to the throne, Prince Charles, and his missus. I simply cannot understand who in Buckingham Palace thought it was a good idea to invite to that select table a man dripping in blood, dripping in the blood of 1 million innocents, to invite him to your table, Your Majesty, suggests to me that you or whoever made this decision in Buckingham Palace must have temporarily, at least, taken leave of your senses. Did you not see, Your Majesty, the millions of your subjects on the streets of Britain against the Iraq War in 2003? Millions of them. Even before we knew what we know now, that it was all a pack of lies. Don't you see, Your Majesty, those families of our servicemen who were sent to their deaths or their disfigurement on a lie? Don't you see, Your Majesty, that Tony Blair lied to your Parliament, lied to your armed forces, lied to your councillor, Sir John Chilcot, rest in peace, lied even to you, Your Majesty, must have lied even to you. Do you not see, Your Majesty, the hundreds of thousands of your subjects who have signed the petition in 36 hours, hundreds of thousands of them, demanding that you rescind this almost insane decision that you have made? And it was you who made it, not Boris Johnson, not Sir Keir Starmer, who welcomed it on behalf of the Labour Party, not the Speaker of the House of Commons. Your Majesty, it was you who made this decision to invite this war criminal, to reward this war criminal with your select company and your order of the Garter. None of us will address him as Sir Anthony or Sir Tony. He will always be a war criminal to the majority of people in your realm. How then can you have reached such a decision? That petition must reach 1 million signatures. We had the Million Man Woman March in London, which gathered in your royal park. Your Majesty, I know, because the minister called me to say that we must call it off because we would damage your grass in your royal park. Can you not see, Your Majesty, the uprising that is underway in this country over this decision that you made? Can't you see it compounds all of the problems of the British monarchy just at a time when you can least afford it? Can't you see that it hastens the day of the end of your family's power in this land? Because if that's the kind of use that your family's power is to be put to, then taken together with all of the other things in your sea of troubles, the monarchy, frankly, does not deserve to outlive your good self. I mean no disrespect or animus towards you. I feel none, and I seek to express none. I'm beseeching you, Your Majesty, I beseech you to turn back from this disastrous course of action. I beg you to turn back from this disastrous course that will bring no good to anyone, least of all you and your monarchy. Did you not see, Your Majesty, the feelings of the people in your Commonwealth, in Africa, in Australia, in Canada, in the Caribbean? Did you not see how people felt about the terrible crime of the invasion and subsequent occupation of Iraq? Do you not see us, Your Majesty? Do you not hear us, Your Majesty? I promise you, as long as God gives me breath, I will seek to get 1 million signatures on that petition. And I ask all of those watching and listening today, not just to sign it, but to bring me 10 other signators. Let's make this petition as big as that demonstration in Hyde Park on the 15th of February 2003. Let's make this the biggest petition in history. The Parliament site for petitions has refused to accept a petition on this matter. So change.com it is. It's tinyurl.com/stop Sir Blair. Don't do it, Your Majesty. Don't do it. It's not too late. Think again, Your Majesty. Turn, turn, turn. As might Ghislaine Maxwell yet. At this rate, they'll be putting her in the Privy Council. Dame Ghislaine, the child sex trafficker, is still being referred to in the British media as a socialite, whatever that means. A socialite who preyed on young, poor girls to lure them like a Pied Piper into the bed of the filthy pedophile rapist Jeffrey Epstein. A friend of the rich and the powerful, some of them in the royal family. A friend of presidents and kings. A man who was gathering every piece of pornographic evidence he could of the perversions of the high and mighty in the service of sundry intelligence agencies. Well, she's now been found guilty against all of the predictions, all of those who said it could never happen. now await the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter, of course, of the greatest British thief of the 20th century, the publisher Robert Maxwell. The scars from whom I could show you if you'd like to see them. But why did the judge then seal all the papers, just like Dr. David Kelly's post-mortem and other medical and tribunal evidence? Why did that happen, Your Honor, the judge in New York? After all, was Ghislaine Maxwell pimping only for Jeffrey Epstein? Did all these poor girls end up in only one bed, the bed of Epstein? Or were they passed around like playthings between one rich and powerful man and another? I know what I think. I know what most people think. The idea that Ghislaine was pimp only to Epstein is positively preposterous. If she was pimping for him, she was pimping for his friends. And we demand to know who those friends were. We demand to know if our presidents, our kings, our leading politicians, journalists and broadcasters were amongst those feasting on the dripping roast of human flesh procured by the contemptible Miss Maxwell. No socialite, just a pervert who pimped for perverts.